All right, here we go. Today we have Louisiana royalty in the building. Young Bleed, welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, my brother. It's an honor and a pleasure and a long time coming, Vlad. So finally, good and glad to have made it here, man. I'm say it like that.
Oh, yeah, man. We've been talking about doing this for, man, almost a decade, I think.
Almost a decade, if not a decade plus, something like that.
Yeah, we finally made it happen.
Yes, sir. Beautiful, man.
Well, it's your first time here. I want to start in the very, very, very beginning.
Okay,
So you grew up in Baton Rouge.
Yes, sir. The Southside Bottoms, man. G Street, man. Yeah, G Street.
Okay, and your mom had you at 17.
Yeah, she was 17, yes. Yeah.
And I guess there was a situation at the time where they told her that she might not make it, so she had a choice whether to have the baby or live, essentially.
Sir. Definitely, man. 1974, June 6th, I just turned 50, man. Thursday, celebrating 50 years of life and the 50 years of hip-hop. But back to that essential, man, definitely, man. The day I was born was the day I almost wasn't here. My mother, pretty much laid down her life for me, man. She took that chance, and God saw fit that we both made it, and she's still here. So, yeah.
Okay, so your mom was a teenager, so she was like 16 when she got pregnant?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and your biological dad raised you up until a certain point until they broke up, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and how old were you when they broke up?
I want to say anywhere between maybe 7 and 8 years old, somewhere along that line.
Okay, so you had a relationship with him. That's like second grade or so?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, second, third grade, yeah.
Okay, do you still keep in touch with him?
Yeah, me and my dad is cool, you know what I mean, and always did, despite of, you know what I mean. But yeah, I might have lived back with my pops when I turned about 21 for a little while, and never again. But yeah, I go check on him and, make sure he all right, that type of thing.
Okay, when your parents broke up, your mom, she got remarried?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Okay, so then you were raised by your stepfather?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So tell me what Baton Rouge was like in the, late 80s, early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s. Just as well as any other ghetto, I'd say, around the country. That crack epidemic, you know what I mean? I'm a 70s baby into the 80s, so that whole evolution was taking place in our area as well. So, it's a beautiful place, but, there is a dark side. So that part of it, man, pretty much, whatever you could think of was going down. I grew up between LSU and the downtown, you know what I mean? So in one sense, the best of both worlds, then the crookedness of both worlds, man. So, that type of thing, hip-hop has evolved, what had he evolved, and like you say, going more into the 90s. So, yeah, it's a lot coming to mind when you say that, Vlad, actually from that transition to something recent as the late 80s, the DOC into Compton's Most Wanted and that type of thing was in the atmosphere, hustling and so on and so forth,
Well, you talked about when you were 16, a friend of yours got killed by a cop.
Yes. His name was Chauncey, man. I can't call Chauncey last name. That's how long that had been. But he was a younger homie, man, the Gardner Lane area of Baton Rouge, and had a little altercation from what I understood. And was running with a pistol, and one of the neighbors picked up the phone and called the police on him, and they tracked him down in a bando apartment. And as he was hiding behind the door, the sheriff busted in and shot through that door and murdered my partner real young. I made a song and contribute to that by the name of When Dirty Harry Meets Sally. If you remember back then, the Harry Met Sally movie, well, I took it and flipped it and related to that situation, yeah.
I mean, what do you think was the most serious situation that you saw or were involved with during that time?
Early 90s. I'll give you this story, Vlad. For anybody that know anything about South Baton Rouge and where we come from, my uncle, we had that epidemic took place real hard in my family after the death of my grandfather. And in that broken up home time, I lived, off and on with my grandparents and stuff like that. But I had an uncle by the name of James Donald Johnson Jr. He was my granddaddy's first son. But he was on anything you could name, man. So he get full of that PCPs, cocaine, all that one night. You know, the little power sections in the neighborhood that fueled the neighborhood. He climbed that fence and climbed on a live wire and took anywhere from 7,000 to 13,000 votes. They pronounced him dead. He come back to life, tried it again. But that first time, he cut off all the lights in South Baton Rouge. So to remind anybody, I say, remember the time? My uncle was the one that cut off all them lights in South Baton Rouge. So that type of thing was in the household and to the neighborhood, you know? Yeah.
Okay, speaking of grandfather, you were actually named after him, right?
I took my name from him, Vlad. Actually, when my mother was still pregnant, my granddaddy was a World War II veteran. So, you know, my mother is his first daughter. So the way her stomach was, he say she looked like a army tank. And if she had a little boy, that's what his nickname would be. So the rest is history. So throughout my finding myself with this rap thing before he passed away, I told him when I was about a 9-year-old kid, you know, one day that I wanted to be a rapper and have a record company. So after so many transitions and so many names, right before I signed with Priority Records, you know, I said this one here for the money, so I'm gonna keep this one and what it means to me the most. So I went back to those walks and talks with Granddad, you know what I'm saying, and me saying that. They used to call him Good Bleed in the street, so he was good to bleed you with his hands, you know what I mean? He was a hell of a man. But so I took that, you know what I mean, and kind of put the family on my back and been walking with it ever since, man. So yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so around 11 years old, you met C-Loc.
Yes, 11, 12, I say 11, 12. I want to say I was in the 7th grade. I don't think we knew each other when when I was in the 6th grade. Loc being a year older than me. So yeah, you might be right, 11, 12. We met somewhere in middle school, grew in the same neighborhood, but didn't go to the same elementary schools. So yeah, you're right when you say that, 11, 12 years old.
Okay, was that around the time you started rapping and recording your raps?
I started recording at 11, but I had been rapping since like 82, 83. I started writing officially in 1983, the 4th grade. Yeah.
Okay, so you started recording raps, and then you would just press them up and just sell them in the neighborhood, like on tapes?
Well, I was making, you know, the demo tapes and different things, and, you know, and utilizing them in talent shows. But somewhere later in life, a friend of mine by the name of Steven Sterling come to me. He had a big brother named Todd Sterling and a big cousin named Michael B. Williams that was out of Ohio, actually, had just moved in Louisiana. And they was starting a production company. I was one of the, where they was looking for a young rapper. Excuse me. And my partner Steve said he knew a guy that stayed in the back of the Mayfair East Side, you know what I mean, of Baton Rouge. And if they was interested, he'll put us together. And those guys actually pressed my first tape, like 500 tapes, 2,500, you know, we made off for them. I forget, we paid 500 for them, whatever the case might have been, but those were the first guys to put some money behind me and believe in me and put something on the square for me. So throughout the high schools, middle schools, and of course the dope spots and everywhere, corner stores, I could put a tape in some of the moms and pop stores, you know, on some consignment. So shouts out to Mike B. Williams and Steve Sterling, man. And Steve Sterling and Todd Sterling, as a matter of fact, for putting out that first tape. And actually, that was the tape I had, the Dirty Harry Met Sally. But the single that I had on it was called Much Love. It was a Barcade sample, and the Friends drums meshed together. And that's the first record I had on the radio between about 16 and 17 years old.
Okay. And then at one point, you guys formed Concentration Camp. And it was you, C-Loc, Max Minnelli,
yeah,
Javon,
yeah,
and Chris Hamilton, who was Javon's younger brother.
Okay, he was around, but more or less in the building with me right now is my brother Lee Time, which is like him and Loc was the founders of C-Loc Records. You know, we was all homies, and I came in later, and as we started to build into those guys, you know, I came up with the idea that, well, hey, man, we need a clicolation that was more than just everything was C-Loc at the time, the records and so on and so forth. So as we built and morphed into a fam, that's the name I came up with, passed it on to Loc and Lee Time, of course. And, you know, we accepted that, everybody else accepted, and, you know, the camp was birthed, I want to say, like 95, 96, something like that.
Okay, and by that time, CeeLo was already rapping and kind of having his music out there on the radio and so forth?
Definitely. He was actually getting ready to do a third album or something like that, and that the self-titled Concentration Camp album became that third album, you know what I mean, as we built. But yeah, they had singles and different things out. A few guys in the neighborhood, shouts out to my cousin Silker Slim and the Bottom Posse, Joker P and those guys, evolved straight out of South Baton Rouge. Then I was doing my tape thing. Then he again, Lee Time and Loke formed CeeLo Records, and us three, and long before Boosie would evolve, but straight in that, off the same block, same neighborhood. That's our neighborhood nucleus for as rap music as a whole.
Okay, so then right around 97, you put together the song "How You Do That" independently.
Yes, I want to say 96, maybe even 96, Vlad. 97, the Bout soundtrack came out. I was actually working on a solo record, coming off the Camp album. But on the Camp, it gave us all the opportunity to display our own, separate talents and bring that to the table. And that was my solo effort. So it grew its own legs, and somewhere between 96 and 97, it caught the ears of Master P. I'll let you take it from there, not going too far, but yeah.
Okay, so originally this song was called "The Fool"?
Yeah, A Fool. Yeah,
A Fool.
A Fool.
Got it.
Yeah.
And was that sort of a takeoff from King T's "Act a Fool"?
Absolutely, King T's "Act a Fool." I'm a King T head, man, since back in the Gap. We mentioned Compton's Most Wanted, so I grew with that whole evolution from the late 70s, 80s hip hop into the 90s, and definitely King T was one of them guys that I listened to all the time and was inspired by that particular Act a Fool album and song. Yeah.
Yeah, classic album, man.
Definitely one
King
of the greatest.
T's "Act a Fool," man.
Yeah, one of the greatest,
Absolute
man.
West Coast classic. Oh,
yes,
yeah.
sir.
100%. 100%.
Yes,
Okay, so the song was produced by you and Happy Perez.
Yes, originally.
Originally. Yeah. Okay, and you guys put it together. Mm-hmm. How did it get from, this local song to Master P finding it?
I didn't know for a while that No Limit headquarters was in Baton Rouge. But as Loke and Master P started working together and combining the cliques, he got his ear on it, and I got word back that he wanted to do a remix, and I offered to sign with Priority Records and come out to California the whole nine. Offer I couldn't refuse, and pretty much that. He wanted to use it for that Bout soundtrack. And once he took it from the Camp album to the Bout soundtrack, it grew a whole nother pair of legs. So yeah, basically that.
Okay, so when you hear the original version and then the Master P version, because Beats by the Pound came in and kind of remixed it a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. They enhanced it. I say they re-enhanced it, so yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Right, and then Master P jumps on it and he does his own verse on it, and he's on the hook as well, partly.
Yes.
Okay, so he likes the song, they remix it, he jumps on it, it goes on the Bout It movie soundtrack.
Yes.
Which at the time was a huge deal.
Wow. I want to say, especially for those independent films, definitely in the South, it hadn't been done like that to that magnitude. So yeah, it took off running. Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, no, back then, these days anyone could take an iPhone and make their own little movie, but back then, nobody was making independent movies like that, especially a rapper. Like that was just unheard of.
At all, right. Yes.
Right. Listen, the movie, didn't have the highest production value, but it was entertaining. It was funny.
Oh, yeah. A great B-level, one of the greatest B-level films, man, I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely.